All right, welcome back to the kickoff. The lads are here. We're going to start with Manchester United, who lost to Brighton. In the last episode, KG wasn't here, but the resounding feeling after watching the Fulham game, KG, and I know you did catch a little bit of the clip, was that basically you got away with it against a toothless Fulham side, and that as soon as any side you play has a bit of teeth about them, you'll get exposed. But that Brighton side, they're not the Brighton side of the last few years. They actually look, in my opinion, worse. That starting lineup cost 10 million less than Anthony, by the way. Just to want to put that out there. And look, you weren't terrible in the game, but you must be frustrated at the situation.
Is it my, can I speak? Thank you. I'm glad to speak because you lot were pricks on that last show. That was disgusting. I watched that, I almost left a comment in the comment section. I almost was like, wait, what's going on? The feedback that you lot gave, it all counts for today. Like, you see last week's feedback?
Absolutely.
Don't look shocked. You lot were all dickheads. I watched the show. I almost sent messages to everyone like, wait, what kind of analysis was this?
The analysis was that you made Fulham was hurting us. That you're there to be beaten, and that when you play a good side away from home, especially, you will come unstuck, as exactly what happened in the very next game.
Said in that one, what you lot said, because I watched all of it, and I was just like, I was steaming. I was in the chat, and I was like, I started writing a comment and I deleted it. I goes, nah, this won't look good. Tell them to their face.
What was the comment? What were you going to write? What were you actually going to write?
What's the problem then?
Oh, it's going to be like, what kind of analysis is this? What do you call it? What's happened to this show?
It's got this
the old
shit.
guys. The old.
Fuck these guys. I love it.
No, on a serious note, like everything that you lot would have said before yesterday, it's official. Like what you were saying about us, I thought that it was just off a bit because we were on top of Fulham. I thought we looked good. I thought there was 2 chances for Fulham that they got in, but then after that, I didn't see none of Fulham. I thought Man United was showing a bit more going forward. We looked a bit brighter, and I was on the excitement side, and I had this feeling of, you know what, again against a smaller team, because there can be no excuses. You lot know last season I was making all the excuses to Ten Hag. You lot will be like, you've lost 7 to Liverpool, this, that, and the other. I've made into so many excuses. Now we spent the money. There's nowhere for my manager to hide. So now we have to kind of get results, and you have to win at Brighton away. There's no excuses. I can't sit here and say if Man United want to be a big club, those are the games that you win. And in the top 6 games or the top 4 games, that's the games when you can say, maybe a draw, but we can't do this if we want to be involved. Our next game is against Liverpool. So you can tell me what we want to be 6 points off already. That doesn't make any sense.
Thoughts on the starting lineup, gents, and the fact that Garnacho, despite coming on against Fulham and looking exciting, again, not starting. Rashford starts ahead of him after having, a nothing game against Fulham. Xerxes comes on and creates something out of pretty much nothing against Fulham and not starting either. Like, why are you waiting so long to start delay? Why are you bringing him on for the junk in it? A lot of baffling decisions there.
You know what? And that's why, like, I promise you, like yesterday, I think 2 days ago, steaming with the manager. Literally, I was just really upset because, I understand the thing about it being a meritocracy and stuff. And he's done this before. When we brought in Casemiro, McTominay was playing really good football. So he kept Casemiro out until the time was right. But then now it's like, you've seen how bad it's been. Not blaming Maguire because he had a good game against Fulham. But like, we have to move on from this. We spent our whole summer chasing De Ligt. To not start him doesn't make sense. He made mistakes in that game. I attributed 70% of the loss to him. Now, because taking off Bruno Fernandes for McTominay was a head scratcher. That was a head scratcher of the lifetime.
McTominay is going out the door, and you're taking off your biggest and best footballer at the club. Like, what the hell? Like, I've got to give the Chelsea lads. What were you thinking when this was going on?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that starting lineup, to not have gone Garnacho in there was a travesty almost, you know what I mean? It's like, almost like, what more can I do? And at the moment in time, he looks like your most threatening player. Now, obviously the man tasked with being your most threatening player, which is Marcus Rashford, he's got 2 goal involvements in his last 17 appearances. So I wouldn't be hanging my hat on him to be someone that's going to be scoring the goals. What I will say is I do think offensively, and I use the word offensively, remember, offensively, Man United were pretty unlucky. They had the ball in the back of the net a couple of times. Obviously the Xerxes one, by the letter of the law of the game.
Unlucky.
It's unlucky. That's the word for it. By the letter of the law of the game, it was chalked off. It was right to be chalked off. But I would feel hard done by, because not only was it clearly going in and he didn't really interfere with the play, not only that, he also tries to get out the way of it. So I think offensively it's fair enough. But defensively, you're just not looking good at the moment. And you speak about De Ligt there, right? And to me, I've always looked at De Ligt, and I've always thought that maybe when we look at, I think Maguire's been decent and last season he was all right, but maybe Maguire was a poor man's De Ligt. So I had a look at the stats combined compared to the two of them. And actually, attributes wise and statistics over last season, where they played probably a similar amount of games, right? They're not far apart, you know, like there's a lot of areas in which
But that could be in stats. But it could be in stats. That one might tell the truth though, because we know what Maguire is.
That gives you even more weight, KG. De Ligt played last season for a team in Bayern Munich who, yes, had their worst season in a while. They still finished 3rd. Man United finished 8th. Bayern Munich still lost a lot less games than Man United and still would have had a lot more control of games than Man United. So you would feel like, just because of the level of competition they're up against and the standings in their separate leagues, you'd feel like the lit stats should be considerably better. Whereas actually the ones I was looking at and the key metrics that I'm looking at, it's actually about 50-50. I don't think these boys are all that different, you know, and you're obviously massively unlucky to not have Euro in there if we're assuming he is to come in and hit the ground running. But my main concern, and I don't want this to look like I'm just bashing Man United, because it's a concern of mine as a Chelsea fan after, you know, despite us finishing the season well, after the sort of season we had, my main concern was that we were going to start this season and see similar to how last season started, not really see a transition, an improvement, and most importantly, a progression. And it's 2 games in, so nothing's said and done now. Nothing's won or lost, 2 games in. But at the moment, surely you've got to agree with me, you're not seeing any progression here, are you?
No, do you know what? It's the last minute goals. I think we've conceded a last minute goal in the last, I think we've done it like 7 or 5 times. Go ahead.
I can help you with this.
Of course it's got that stat.
So, because I've seen this stat and I found it amazing, because if there's one thing we associate with Manchester United in the history of the football club, it's them bastards never give up, man. And I've always respected that. And for 30 years before Ten Hag came in, they were in the Premier League. Man United had conceded 2 90th minute winners. Since Ten Hag's came in the last couple of years, they've conceded 6 90th minute winners. That's something that we expect from Man United to be having in favour of them. Not to mention, Eric Ten Hag has now officially lost more games away from home than he's won, which is staggering. Like even though we've known Ten Hag's, you know, been hit and miss and it's been all over the shop, to have lost 17 games and have won 16 away from home for Man United it's unbelievable.
And it's the defending at the back post there, like for that goal, it's the 90th minute or whatever it is, right? Tired legs, tired minds. I completely understand that. But that is the moment of the match when you need to be on it. And you cannot say the concentration levels were good enough at all from the Man United defenders, because if João Pedro hadn't have scored that goal, Encensio would have. He was arriving late as well.
Any of them. There was 3 of them.
There was 3 of them. There was 3 of them at the back stick. And the worst thing is, right, sometimes someone will have a look and they can't make up the ground. I sat and watched that goal, right, and watched it over and over again, not celebrating, but I sat and watched that goal. No one even had a look. No one even had a look, including Onana. No one knows. And that's the area you're obviously going to be most vulnerable. So I don't know, man. It didn't look good to me.
Josh,
I've got a
what
question
you
for
saying?
Josh. I want to go to Josh with a specific question, because if there's anyone I feel like who's qualified to answer this, it's you. Mason Mount, Josh. He is now being deployed in a strange system where it's him and Bruno Fernandes. And a lot of what I'm hearing from Man United fans is, well, off the ball, Mason Mount is doing a lot of pressing. And yeah, I've seen that. And I'm not disagreeing with that. But what we're looking at is a long-term plan that's going to win Manchester United football matches. And I just don't think that Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes starting every game is the answer to that. But you know Mason Mount better than I do. What do you think?
This was the one that really confused me. And you know what? I have to say, I watched a video on Mason Mount. Sometimes, you know, those highlights on individual players, they can be misleading in terms of how good they actually were. But the video, before I, go in and really destroy Mason Mount, I'll say this. I think that the highlight reel that I saw, he actually didn't do too many things wrong. Like, there weren't a lot of mistakes in there. There were some good passes. He wiggled out of a lot of sort of tight areas that he was pressed into by the opposition. So actually, I don't think he's that bad. I think that the real issue here is, one, the tactics that Ten Hag employs and where he plays Mason Mount. Because obviously Bruno and Mason, I feel, were so similar. It just doesn't make sense. And that leads me to my second point, is like the acquisition and the recruitment. Obviously, we've seen this new recruitment strategy come in for Man United. I actually do think the new strategy is actually quite encouraging.
It's way better.
But actually, I feel like Mason Mount is almost like one of the last ones from the previous era. Yeah. In which it hasn't quite worked out, because you've signed this player in Mason Mount, who for Chelsea did have some exquisite moments and definitely sort of raised his level when he was, playing in Champions League finals and actually looked, right at home for us. But the fact that you've signed him and he wants to play in exactly the same areas of Bruno Fernandes, and then you're actually playing him in the tactical setup in that way where you're playing them alongside each other, it doesn't make sense. And what you're seeing actually in a lot of tactics going forward in the Premier League right now is you've got two pressers sort of pushing up in the centre backs, and they really do close down space. So I get what Eric Ten Hag is doing, but my question to you, KG, is when you see that lineup, right, and you see once again no striker, Xerxes on the bench, he's just come on and played incredibly well. Are you sort of like, what the hell is Ten Hag doing? Like, are you actually questioning the manager? Because for me on the outside, right, I'll give you my perspective, right. The way that I would do it is I would try and win a game in the first half, and then I'd think about protecting a lead. And what it feels like Man United are doing at the moment is they're sitting back, waiting until half time, take it in at 0-0, and then they'll make the sort of the expansive
substitutions. It's quite
substitutions.
cowardly, in my opinion, lads. I don't know about you. I think it's a cowardly approach to it, especially in games where Man United aren't playing Liverpool in that game. They aren't playing Man City. They're playing beatable teams, and they're starting the game without a level of confidence which the transfer budget should demand.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you lot raised a great point, and I think that's where the anger came on the weekend. I was watching that game saying, well, is Mason Mount going to be a part of the normal? We just bought two strikers. Well, we got Rasmus Højlund, who we bought, and Mason didn't play, right? Mason didn't play the season that we actually bought him for, right? But then we tried it. The whole midfield thing was going to be, Casemiro, Mason Mount and Bruno. That was the plan going forward. It didn't work. Too lightweight. They just couldn't all look after each other. It didn't work. And then Kobe arrived. Now we got a situation of, well, we've got a Kobe, we've got a Bruno, we've got a Casemiro. Casemiro, I would say aging, whatever. We should be looking for a player that's going to bring out the best that's going to allow Kobe to shine and still see what Bruno does. And we have to change the Casemiro thing. There's really no space for Mason Mount. But because we started with him, you're like, well, what do we do now? When he is playing, we do have control. So in the other games, it hasn't been the basketball thing. As soon as we took him off, I thought the manager took him off. I was so pissed off when he did come off at first, but we heard that he might have he felt something. Then I'm like, wait, have we signed another injury prone player? Is it off the Reece James, Ben Chilwell academy list of, we've got one of those? Like, so now we sound a dud. So it's really scary because you go into this next game and I know the team looks better with Mason Mount, but we have no attacking threat. All we have is you can't play through us as easy. So we got someone literally
what you're saying. Sorry,
yeah, we're holding Casemiro's hands. Go ahead.
You're saying we've got control, but you're controlling a 0-0.
Nothing.
Like you're Manchester United, like Josh has just said. You control the game. You shut up shop essentially once you score the goal, right? And it's just unambitious is the thing I'm feeling.
You are right. Like, and the funny thing is, like, usually I'd be here flying the flag for Ten Hag, and it's early in the season, so it's not like I've given up on him, but I just know now there is nowhere to hide. I'm like, Ten Hag, whatever decision you want to make it. I'm going to back every decision. When he took off Bruno, actually, when he took off Rashford, I was like, well done. That's a good, cause Rashford, like, does he deserve to be there playing? He hasn't had, Alan Shearer said that he hasn't had a shot on goal in the last 2 games. That's crazy. A shot on target is crazy for Rashford, who's had a long summer off. You want to see him get back into it. So it is Man United fans, and a lot of us now are at that point of saying, okay, show me something. It's year 3. And what kind of makes it worse is we're looking at our rivals. Our rivals are starting to show their football immediately. And what are we going to say? What can we say? There's nowhere to go, really. There's nowhere to go.
I seen the tweet the other day.
So Mason Mount, before we gloss on from it, should he be in the best Man United starting 11? Because you were mentioning rivals there, and in the time that Man United or Mason Mount has played for Man United, João Felix has played for Chelsea, gone back to Atletico, spent a season-long loan at Barcelona, come back to Chelsea, and he's now equalled Mason Mount's Premier League goal tally. Mount's been in Man United the whole time.
Fuck me.
But let's not bring it back to Chelsea. Carry on.
I seen an interesting take from a Man United fan online about, no manager in the world tells their players to leave their back post unmarked. That's obviously on the players. And I was like, how many combinations of defenders have we seen for Manchester United? Different defenders. And yet the same thing over and over and over again. What is a coach supposed to do? He's supposed to drill the players to set them up so that these things don't consistently happen. If different players are making the same mistakes and the common denominator is the manager, then the manager is having an impact on that. By the way, his assistant coaches also changed in that time. Still the same problems. I don't understand. Like, I'm just baffled by how Ten Hag gets such a free ride at the, and look,
I don't think he's getting a free ride.
I do think that the recruitment is actually getting better. This player that you're linked with right now, the central midfielder, look at his stats, look them up. All right, there's some bite there. That frightens me. Yeah. That's like, okay, this guy is a bit of a killer, and that could really help you have a bit more metal in the midfield. But equally, are we going to see the same things regardless because of the man pulling the strings at the top? It feels like it's possible.
Well, this is the thing. We're playing Liverpool on weekend, right? And the main thing is I'd play that guy straight away. I wouldn't waste no time. But then Man United fans are like, we know what Ten Hag's going to do. He's going to Xerxes him. He's going to wait for him. He's going to wait for him to be at top level to throw him in. And we just can't do that. It's scary. Like, but then it's early in the season. So he can still, like, nothing's handed out. Nothing's won at this moment. There's still time. And I think the signings that we have made have been some wise ones. And we're actually getting good value finally that we've never done before. Like, you see, there's this deal that you lot are trying to offer us. Sterling and Ben Chilwell, Ed Woodward, he would have done that fast. It wouldn't even been, we would have drove to Cobham to do the deal, and we probably would have given you some money on top as well. But I know now
what do you make of that though? Jadon Sancho swap for Raheem Sterling. I mean, all three disgusting. Any thoughts?
Go ahead. Really?
I don't want Sancho. No.
No, I don't want Sancho.
No. Oh, wow.
I like that.
No, I'm not being rude.
Wow.
Just look, at the minute, we're looking at our left wing, right? And we're thinking, although João Felix might be used a little bit more centrally, we've got him that could play there. We've got Nkunku that's played there from time to time. We've got Neto, who will definitely be playing there. We've also got Mykhailo
Mudryk, the best player that we've got at Chelsea.
Come on every now and again. Now, if you said to me now that we could give you Mudryk and keep Sterling, I'd be quite up for that one. But if I'm being honest, I don't really want him there. One other thing that I would say when we're speaking about individual players that should have a shout out, Danny Welbeck has now scored more goals
6 times.
against Man United than any former player for Man United has ever scored against them. And I want to make a quick little point here because you spoke about the defence there, Brian, right? And there's lots of Man United fans and it's not their fault, but they'll rightly say, well, look, man, like you speak about our defence. Sometimes we've had to be playing with Harry Maguire and with Johnny Evans and whatnot. Look at the combined age of those two. But Brighton did have James Milner and Danny Welbeck helping them yesterday. Danny Welbeck scoring a goal, Milner having one cleared off the line. So ultimately, I understand that age is an important thing in football, but a lot of the time it comes down to the coaching.
I heard a few Man United fans online saying that they thought that they did enough to win the game, etc., etc.
No,
I'm not saying obviously. I'm not discounting that the offside goal was ridiculous because obviously it wasn't interfering with play. But when you look at the XG, Brighton, I think it was like 2.3 to Man United's 1.5. Like they were creating the clear-cut chances and also felt like they were in control. And when it came to crunch time, those last 10 minutes, you seen who wanted it more. You seen who poured it on. Man United didn't even get the ball back after Brighton had scored.
What we did, the mistake that we made is we turned it into a basketball game. In the first half, I was like, I could get used to this. We stopped them from playing football. I couldn't see any Brighton. I was like, we're doing what Brighton usually do to us. And then after we lost Mason Mount. Second half, they came out house on fire and we just didn't know how to deal with it. And instead of saying, you know what, like I heard, on the overlap, Paul Scholes saying, and it's really worrying when your ex-players come out and slate the club in the way they do. Kind of like John Omi Mikel. You know what I mean? Like when your ex-players come out and say, he's getting pelters. But then when your ex-players come out and say, we are playing basketball, and it's true, we get the ball and we're not saying, you know what, let's hold on for it. When you bring on McTominay for Bruno, that lets you know you've decided it's do or die. It's us versus you lot. Let's see who gets there first. And it was silly. It was a dumb decision when we should have slowed it down because they were playing a ridiculous high line and Garnacho could have got in. It just needed a bit of guile, a bit of patience, and we could have curled one in, like one of those kind of smart runs. Didn't do it. Man United have themselves to blame, but it's not like, as I said, with Ten Hag, I do believe that he's going, it's rubber's meeting the road and he has to get it right. And I think he will get it right. I think he'll get it right.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because I was kind of going to lean into the follow-up game that you've mentioned against Liverpool. Arne Slot obviously hasn't been at Liverpool long, despite him having a nice squad left over from Jurgen Klopp. It's his first, big game there. I'll go to the Chelsea lads first. Are you anticipating, because obviously Man United had a massive win against Liverpool last season. How are you anticipating that game to go?
I'm looking at it now, and obviously, look, it's at Old Trafford, which will certainly help him. I just don't know how any Man United fan can go into that game with any confidence. The way that Liverpool have played, I think they've gone under the radar a bit. I think they're looking really exciting, and the fact that they do have that continuity under Klopp. The way that I'm describing Liverpool is, I do think the transitionary year comes next season when they potentially lose Virgil van Dijk. They lose all Salah. Trent potentially going as well. That, like, next season we could be having a very different conversation about Liverpool. But the fact that they have just hit the ground running, the sort of the lessons of Jurgen Klopp have been transitioned into this new manager, this new era, and he has made his own little tweaks. But let's be honest, it's pretty similar football.
It is similar. Do you know what's funny?
They're less gung-ho though.
What we're talking about from KG is more control in the game, and ironically, I think Arne Slot that's his sort of thing, right? He's wanted to bring a bit more control to the heavy metal style of Klopp.
Yeah.
It would be ironic if he gets Liverpool playing his style of football quicker than the lack of identity that we're still waiting on from Ten Hag. And obviously we're already seeing the Chelsea manager immediately getting a bit of a tune out of their players and playing how he wants to play, even if that is basketball at times as well.
It's not just a Liverpool game, by the way. Like, obviously that's what all attention's going to be on, and you never want to overlook a game. But after that, considering how they played away at Brighton, they've got 2 away games in a row. Obviously, Southampton, you'd expect them to win that. But Crystal Palace away, we know what happened there last season.
We need revenge.
We know what happened there last season.
We need revenge.
They look trash this season, to be fair. But
you got Villa and Spurs back to back. So it's a real testing start to the season for Man United. Listen, I was about to say I feel sorry. I don't feel sorry if I'm being completely honest, but I do feel
I understand it.
I do feel a little bit of sympathy for you boys in a way that obviously the signings that you've brought in haven't been able to really get on the pitch yet. And I've saw like yesterday, for example, with my team, Chelsea, I saw just how different a game can go when you introduce some of these new signings onto the pitch, both of which making an impact. So I wouldn't write off the opportunity to do that, but it's just the Ten Hag philosophy. Like, KG, you might be able to tell me, right? Because obviously you was out on the preseason tour, you spent a little bit of time around them and whatever. But I feel like when I use my club, for example, and reference, I feel like managers who didn't, I want to say, get the culture almost, and I'm not even on about the culture of the football club. I'm on about the culture of the country, right? Managers who didn't really adapt to that and get to that never fared well, I don't think. And managers that do seem to fare well. And one thing I can sort of look at the outside, and again, you're going to answer this here because I might be wrong, but it's like, I just can't see many players going, oh, I love Ten Hag.
Well, you know what? He's one of those ones where you see how Mourinho found his team, his boys, and then that was it. And that's all that needed to love him was his team, and he didn't care about outside noise. The one thing I don't think our manager is able to do is build that siege mentality, because he's brought in a lot of his players. So his boys right now, his team is there.
Mourinho's team did love him. That's
no, but I'm saying the boys, the players that he's brought in, not because you wouldn't come back.
Does Mourinho love him? Does Mason Mount, after he tried to sell him, does Mason Mount love him? Does Rashford no, but that's the point. Him? The point I'm making with you is the players they must love him because they all want to come back and play for him. So there's the ones that remember he's brought back in certain players, and the other players that he's given a chance to are like debut players. So Kobe is naturally gonna love him because he gave him a chance. Garnacho is gonna love him. The ones that won't love him are the official pros. So Varane had an issue. Casemiro had an issue.
Maguire.
Ronaldo had an issue. Maguire's had an issue, but Maguire just puts his head down. He's got one of those guys that said, you know what, no matter what, even if you're chasing 4 to 5 centre backs, I'm going to be here. I'm going to try and give my best. I think he's just got a really good mentality, but I think he's got and that's why in a sense, to answer your question, there's no space for asking who loves him because this is all your boys. This is your team. This is almost becoming your team now.
Mate. Where can you 600 million quid spent now, man. Where can you find these are players that you worked with in the past. Masraoui you worked with in the past. Delete you worked with in the past. Anthony you worked with in the past. Licha you worked with in the, who else there's no one that you can say that, what's the relationship like now? Sancho, he don't love him. That's clear. But no one's given Rashford more chances than any. If Rashford doesn't love him, Rashford might as well write a statement right now because he's helped him. He's helped him more than Southgate did or anyone has. He doesn't deserve this. At the moment, does he deserve to start the next game? No, he doesn't. Is he going to? Probably.
I'll tell you what,
can we just end this on Rashford
clashes with Ten Hag. He don't want to become in Chelsea because our new manager looks fucking ruthless.
No, mate. He won't have any of that shit. Just to end on Rashford, and let's not take too long on this guy because he's not worth it, if I'm honest. But do any of you, just short answers here, expect Rashford to come good this season? Because what I'm looking at, when you look at this guy, £350,000 a week, right? He sat off the whole Euros. He's had all summer to get himself sharp. He just looks not in the games, man.
For me, I think they made a mistake. Yeah, I think you made a mistake last summer. I honestly thought you could have cashed in at that point. It would have been a fairly sort of good time to let him go. He didn't perform last season, really. He hasn't performed in a while. I thought you've missed a trick. I honestly do think you'd be a better team without him because you could have cashed in that money and you could have bought another winger with this new recruitment team that would have potentially had a much brighter future. You've still got him on the books.
Do you see Shearer slating him, saying that he doesn't even know where he's supposed to be and
he's not a young lad anymore? The key point that Shearer made in that Match of the Day stuff was that Rashford beat his man a couple of times. He had him on skates. He went round the wing and he turns back, and I'm just sat there thinking, do you want the winger for Man United when you've had so many like unbelievable wingers on that left-hand side, on the right-hand side for you guys, and you've got a boy that's there, he's got the pace, he can go and beat men, and then he cuts back and passes it inside and slows the game down. Honestly, if I were you, KG, I'd be furious at that. But I think it's unexcusable.
I think Rashford has, like, people are giving him like 5 games to let us know what's going on. It's scary. It is scary hours, but I'm still backing him that he's going to show up this season. And that's purely on hope. People are like 5 games because he's not someone that's good off the bench. No,
he was fit all last season.
Oh no, but it's a fresh start, isn't it? It's a 5-game start.
Can I just round this up with Joy? I just want a yes or no from Joy. Joy, do you expect Rashford to come good this season?
Not really. No, I hope so for his sake, because he's an Englishman and I like to see English players perform well. But if I'm going on what I've seen over a prolonged period of time, listen, if Rashford had a 2-3 game spell, I'd be going, nah, come on, let's pump the brakes a little bit on this. But listen, I don't mean to use the word shit. He weren't shit last season, but by his standards, he was rubbish. Was he? So let's be honest. I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Okay. I don't think he's not striking me at the moment as one of those players who can keep their head high when there's every reason for their head to drop.